Welcome to day 42 of the Gospel of John Book Club. And in today's reading, you better go ahead and let Jesus wash you.
I'm not with that. I'm not with that.
You better let him wash your feet.
Oh no, I'm not with the foot washing. I'm not with
You
it.
will be after you read today's verse.
No, I won't.
Stay like that. Your heart gonna get hard. Your heart gonna get hard. Keep playing. Watch yesterday. If you didn't watch yesterday's, that's where that reference came from.
You gotta
we're
watch
teasing.
it.
We're teasing.
Okay. All right. So today we're reading John chapter 13, verses 1 to 17. Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water in a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't understand now what I am doing, but someday you will." "No," Peter protested, "you will never wash my feet." Jesus replied, "Unless I wash you, you won't belong to me." Simon Peter exclaimed, "Then wash my hands and head as well, Lord, not just my feet." Jesus replied, "A person who has bathed all over does not need to wash, except for the feet, to be entirely clean. And you, disciples, are clean, but not all of you." For Jesus knew who would betray him. That is what he meant when he said, "Not all of you are clean." After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done. I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them."
Yeah. This is so rich here. I think there's this.
It is. I struggle between, is it metaphoric or is it literal?
Yeah, symbolic. It's very
hope
symbolic.
It's symbolic and not literal.
Well, I think it's both. I know that's not what you want to hear, but
I'm gonna go with symbolic.
It is definitely symbolic. It's highly symbolic, and essentially what Jesus was saying. Jesus is like, listen, I'm gonna wash everybody's feet, because it was a custom back then that when you go to somebody's house, their servant would come out and wash the feet of everybody who came in. And so, because they had dusty robes and things of that nature. And so Jesus is like, okay, I am going to wash my disciples' feet. Okay, so there's layers to this. So stay with me. So by him doing that, he was essentially saying that he's going to take the position of the servant. Okay, I'm the leader, right? He's like the teacher-student dynamic, he says at the end. Yeah. He says, okay, but I'm going to take the position of a servant. And I'm going to serve you in this way. Okay, that's one layer. He was demonstrating the nature of a leader. If we're going to lead people, we should lead them by serving them. Okay, there's another layer to it though. So the other layer is essentially he was giving a tutorial, if you will, or he was basically teaching about what his finished work on the cross was. And essentially he's saying, okay, because then there's an exchange with Peter. Peter's like, well, no, how dare you, lower yourself in that way.
Peter's been like his bodyguard all the time. Like, hold up.
You ain't washing my feet. And Jesus is like, listen, if I don't wash you, then you don't even have a part in this. Like, that means you're not even really my follower, because because I'm serving, though I serve those who I follow, who I lead. But then Peter responds with, "Oh, well, then that's the case. Then wash it all. Wash my hands, and And
I want to serve you here.
Okay, well then wash it all. And so Jesus is like, no.
It's like, you don't get it.
He's like, here's his words. He says, then wash my hands and head as well, not just my feet. Jesus replied, a person who has bathed all over doesn't need to wash except for the feet to be entirely clean. And here's the symbolism of that.
Yeah.
He was talking about when he dies, his death, for everyone who believes and has faith in Jesus, it makes you clean for eternity. It makes you positionally right with God. Mm-hmm. You are right with God eternally, and that's your position. Mm-hmm. Okay? However, on a day-to-day basis, we still struggle with sin. We get messy, and so we don't need the full bath. The full bath is God saving you from sin eternally. That's the full bath. Right? It's sanctification. You're made, it's called sanctification. That's really what the word is mean. You're set apart. You're made holy. So God sees everyone who puts their faith and trust in Jesus as holy. Not because of how good your works are, not because of how good you are as a person, but because of how good Jesus was and your faith in him. So Jesus' righteousness, it justifies you. There's another Christian term that is here is justification. It's essentially you are declared not guilty. Okay. God sees you just as if, and that's a good way to remember justification, just as if you never sinned.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So you are in position to God, God sees you as righteous. So you don't need the full washing. Once you enter into salvation, you're fully washed. But as you go through this life, you get.
So how do we clean our feet?
And so that's what Jesus was saying. That was the essence of him just washing the feet, so that they would know. He was also symbolizing that on a daily basis, you need to come to me and ask forgiveness for the things,
daily things
that you're doing on a daily basis.
Okay.
And so that was the dynamic. So you're forgiven for eternity, but in your daily struggle, continue to have that relationship with me on a daily basis. And so that was deep,
That was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot there. I love it though, because I think the other layer here, the last layer, or maybe not the last, but the last one we're going to talk about today, is how essentially he was also saying, this is what I want you to do for one another. This is what it means to be part of my kingdom, that you are a servant first. That you are like, I who am the highest. It says the slave is not higher than the master. The messenger is not more important than the one who sends the message. He's like, yeah, I may be the highest one in the room, but guess what the highest one in the room should do? Lower himself.
I think it's such a stark contrast to how the Pharisees behave.
Ooh,
as
good stuff.
As priests in the temple. They're like, but me.
Yeah.
And
I follow all the commandments.
And it's like he's kicking people out the synagogue and doing all these things. And Jesus is showing a different kind of leader of how he expects even leaders in this dynamic to be servants and to serve one another. And clearly saying that if you're not doing this, then you can't have a part of me. Yeah. And that's how we can even recognize each other. Yeah. That we're serving one another, regardless if you're whoever you are in the church or whatever your role is, that you're still taking on the position of servant. And I think also then to be wary of people who are just not that.
Yeah.
That don't have that heart.
Absolutely. Like, as followers of Jesus, we should be humble. We should practice humility. We should, and I love that Jesus models it first, and then he doesn't even force us to do it. He kind of allows us to freely follow him, and I think that's just the beauty. Is like, because back to when he was coming into Jerusalem and they were cheering, they were celebrating a couple of days ago. They were celebrating because they wanted a kingly king. They wanted somebody to rule and dominate. And Jesus wasn't that. Jesus is like, no, my rule, my leadership is serving you. My leadership is.
What kind of kingdom is this?
I'm going to become less, and I'm going to allow for you to do the same and willfully follow me. He doesn't lord it over us. He's our Lord, but doesn't lord it over us. And I love how gentle and how humbly he leads.
I think you're saying to become less kind of reminds me a bit of John the Baptist.
Yeah.
Where John the Baptist said that himself. It's like, I must become less.
Yeah.
So that he may become great.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, I need to become less so that you guys can become great. And then when it's your turn, you need to become less. And it's just this dynamic of continuing to serve in this way by becoming less, so the others may become, so that not just them, but like God will be lifted up in this way.
Yeah.
I think it's really beautiful, but I don't know. It seems a little difficult.
Yeah.
Just
And so in
that
real time, so back to the other part, you said it, I hope it's metaphoric and not
well, I don't want to literally wash anyone's feet.
Yeah, and I get it, but
I can understand. I can see how not just the washing of the feet, but being a servant of helping someone that's in need for something that I may not necessarily think that is. I don't have time for that. And I do have time for it. I just don't want to do it. But it's taking on that posture of serving or helping someone that needs something, and giving my time to them so that they can so they can feel part or important to the body in that way.
Now, and I'll go a step further. I do think it's important for us to practice the actual washing of feet.
I'm not with you on that.
And I'm gonna tell you why.
Yes, okay.
Because I see it in the same way we practice baptism. When we practice baptism, we identify with Jesus. Jesus himself got baptized. He went down in the water, and the baptism is also very symbolic of identifying with the death when you go down into water, and the resurrection when you come out of the water of Jesus. And it, we follow his model, and so I think we should also literally wash feet of one another.
I think we should wash hands.
Well,
because our hands are dirty. We don't have sandals anymore. Like we have sneakers.
I love you.
So when we come in the house,
I love your perspective.
It's like, let me wash your hands because
but
it's COVID.
But listen,
let me wash your hands.
And think about it. Think about it on this level. Think about it on this level. The very reason why you say that, and why you're very resistant to the washing of the feet, I think is the very reason why it's so important for us to practice it. It's because it's such a humbling thing.
No, because it's nasty.
No. Exactly. That's exactly the point.
It's not a humbling thing.
No. And that's why Peter was like, no, you can't do that. Like, how dare you?
No, I don't think.
And so I think that's why my pushback is so hard, because it's like, yes, absolutely. It's a disgusting thing. And what better way to identify with our Savior? Because he himself did it.
No, I'm saying the reason I think that Peter had such a difficult time was that, not just that, it's disgusting, but it wasn't so much of the washing of the feet, but it was what it symbolized.
Too.
That you're a servant. And it's like, hold up, what are you doing? This is a servant's job.
But the servants get the lowest jobs.
I'm pretty sure if it was his wife washing his feet, he wouldn't have felt no kind of way. He's not gonna be like, girl, stand up, please no. He'd be like, yes, wash my feet.
But he ain't gonna let his wife wash another man's feet. Yeah.
I don't know. We can keep going back.
We're gonna keep praying about
Pray
that
for me,
one.
y'all.
Yes.
Pray for me.
All right.